Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip,
And I'm CJ.
and it is Friday in the Riv. Get ready for a nice weekend. Supposedly the weather's supposed to be pretty decent for a change this weekend.
I heard.
So enjoy. And I guess we got all kinds of news. We got national news, all kinds of news, and we have a new mayoral candidate supposedly. I don't know if
Yes,
he's
we do.
certified yet. Does he have the
Nobody's
signature?
been certified except for Carlos.
So yeah, and it is the guy that was a big Coogan supporter, is always promoting Coogan.
Still is a big Coogan supporter.
And he's running against him for mayor. So does that beg the question? Does that tell you that Coogan is run by the old guard? Because remember, in the old days in Fall River, if there was a threat for mayor with a Portuguese name, because the Portuguese used to come out to vote in those days in large numbers. Actually, they came out in our recall in large numbers. That's why we won the recall.
Yep.
We
Well,
saw
here's
a
the
lot.
thing. Here's the thing. Okay. First and foremost, you, the viewer, needs to know this. It is a matter of case law. That means the court has already ruled. More specifically, the Supreme Judicial Court, which is the highest court in Massachusetts. Public officials and politicians cannot block you on their social media accounts. I've been getting reports that if you don't agree with Christopher Silva, he will block you. He blocked somebody because they said you don't have any prices up in your restaurant. He blocked them. Chris, you're a candidate now. You can't do that. You have to go into your account and unblock everyone. Otherwise, complaints may be filed and you may be paying through the nose. Okay? So understand, you put yourself in the public limelight. They can call you anything they want. Again, another ruling by the Supreme Judicial Court. You can go into a public meeting and you can call them all effing assholes. Okay? And guess what? They can't throw you out, although Joe Camara thinks he can. So remember, as a politician, this isn't only for Chris now, this is for all of them. You are now an open book.
That legal advice was brought to you by CJ Ferry at no charge. So
that's right.
If it was me, I'd let him find out the hard way. You know, you're going to get into something, you should know all the rules. It's like shooting craps. If you want to go to a crap table and you don't know how to play the game, you might get lucky, but chances are you're going to lose your house and all your money. Always know the rules of the game. Like Sun Tzu said, know yourself and know your enemy. But he'll get 300, Jeff, because he's going to get a lot of Coogan signatures. The thought I began to at the beginning, the old school people that are running Coogan's campaign that go all the way back to the Longs, and the Longs are still involved. When John Long was a state rep, senior, and ironically enough, Steve Long and John Long and Tony Cadero are all in this little coffee house screaming about me and healthcare years and years ago, because they tried to get Primacare be the only carrier for people in Fall River. They had a big deal on the horizon, but I torpedoed that deal. But in the old days, the old school is if there was a threat with a Portuguese last name, they would get Portuguese people to run to split the vote. My question is, and I'll give everybody a fair assessment. I want him to explain to me why he's running against the mayor that he thinks is doing a great job. And he said that. Has he not, CJ?
Yes, he has.
Okay. So why do you run against somebody that you think is doing a good job?
Well,
that begs an explanation.
I had a conversation with a political activist, somebody who is very, very, very ingrained in politics in Fall River. And they believe, as I believe, that with the recent uptick of people taking out papers for the various departments, city council, school committee, and mayor, that it is all a means to dilute the vote.
Of course.
Okay? And it's a way of getting their guy through the primary.
And Jeff made a very good point. Takes out papers this late and has to get signatures, and he's a businessman that has to put time into his business.
With two failed businesses. With two failed businesses. The same type of business. Okay? 99 South Main Street, his excuse was, I'm one person. I do all the cooking. I can't do it for both locations. Meanwhile, he had New Boston Road. He had to close that one too, because he couldn't do all the work. How do you expect to run the city of Fall River and keep your business afloat? That's the first thing. Secondly, how do you expect to run the city of Fall River when you can't run 2 coffee shops? 2. And 3, how can you run Fall River when it has no money? Because that's the point we're at. Because Paul has spent every dime possible.
I just
get me going.
Well, apparently you are. It's like talking about Cadero in front of me. So, I had many a run-in and know how he speaks with a forked tongue. That's why he gets along so well with Paul. That time John and Steve Long were screaming about me in the office. That was fortunately someone told me about it, heard them, and I called them and tried to he gave me a story, but it was a story. But I just want to know, I've been following politics a long time. We started a recall because we were dissatisfied. You run against somebody because you're dissatisfied. When you're satisfied with an incumbent, you vote for him. This guy has always been a big Paul Coogan proponent. Why? Tell me. I'll give him a legitimate chance to explain to me why he wants to unseat a mayor that he thinks is doing a good job. Not too many people do think he's doing a good job, but he's one of those who would support him. So why would you run against him except to dilute the vote? Dilute the Portuguese vote specifically, because that's an old trick in this city. You're not doing anything new. As a matter of fact, you're kind of tipping your hand that you got a lot of old school politicians that are running Paul. Guys that go back a long way. They're looking at old school politics, Fall River local politics. Not that that's a bad thing. That's the reason that we want a recall. We know how to deal with. We went right at the people. We didn't get consultants from Boston to tell us how to reach the hearts and minds of the people in Fall River. We know how to get to them. We know how to speak directly to them. But he's pulling papers. And the other thing, Jeff was right. Why do you pull papers this late? It's hard to get that many signatures if you're working for a living or you're running a business. You're working for a living. Unless your friend is going to get you the signatures. All Paul's people. If you look at his signatures, you'll see they all signed Paul's. Okay, Stevie. The same 2 or 3 families that have power and influence. Well, that's a rather bizarre reason for because running a political campaign against a 3-term incumbent with a lot of money is a very, very difficult undertaking. We told people who approached us, and CJ will corroborate this, that you got to start a campaign at least a year in advance.
Especially in Fall River.
Because you've got to fight a guerrilla war. And Scott, I don't know if you saw it last show. I answered the question that you asked. That was me at Lickety Splits. You were correct. But it's very hard to run a campaign against an incumbent with a lot of money. I mean, just look at when George Jacome almost unseated, but he ran a very long and pretty decent campaign, but he screwed up with that degree. But Eddie Lambert, the night before the election, had a full 7-course dinner for 2,000 retirees, for 2,000 senior citizens at the Venus de Milo. He bussed them in, picked them up, bussed them to the Venus, had 2,006 or 7-course dinners at the Venus, and the next morning he had 1,500 for a breakfast on election day, and he only won that election by a few hundred votes. And if Jacome wouldn't have screwed up with that degree, he might have beat him. Yeah, my co-pilot. Yeah, the Abinator. she's all that shotgun. She's got shotgun always in my car. But the only problem is when I go there, I got to get her 1 scoop of vanilla ice cream though. She can only eat vanilla.
I agree with you, Fred. But according to the city council agenda, which was sent out today, the mayor is recommending that the Sylvia School be sold to Tony Cadero for his market rate housing project. Just what we need, more market rate housing.
Yeah, well, you're right, Fred. He doesn't have to be the mayor. He is the de facto mayor. And you're right. Listen, Fred, you know that I was obviously deeply involved with the fire department. I recommended new fire stations based on running in like the spokes of a wheel. And I wanted to relocate stations years ago, and they wouldn't spend the money. They did go out to the north end. They did go out to airport. But I wanted to relocate, the Globe and relocate stations because of traffic patterns in major cities. People who understand the fire service realizes it's far better to run in, hitting larger arteries to come in and have more variable routes to go in than running from a congested center of a city where you got more traffic problems. The response times are better. You're right. That would be a nice location. But again, they don't care. It's got nothing to do with public safety. It's got everything to do with let's let him basically own the entire center of the city of Fall River. Yeah, they got to vote. We beat them without a nickel.
Here's the thing. Look at Stevie B's comment. To prove that we have approximately a population of 90,000, which I think we have more, and if they are motivated to vote, he could win. Again, I'm paraphrasing. It was in one of Chris's videos. Yeah, well, obviously Chris has got his head up his ass because 90,000 people in this city have never come out to vote. The best we did was 70,000 people, 80,000 people, when we had 110, 120,000 population, and that's when people used to vote. They've all left the city. They moved to the suburbs.
They're all voting in Somerset, Westport, Swansea, where you can't screw around like they do now.
Right.
Listen, you got to get people out to vote the way the military taught us. Win the hearts and minds. You got to get them. You either got to get them pissed off, or you've got to have a cause. When you're fighting a greater foe, it's a basic concept of guerrilla warfare. You can't stand face to face like we did against the British. You couldn't walk up to the British and go musket to musket. You'd lose every battle. So we hid behind trees. We freaking fought a guerrilla war. You can't. The concept of guerrilla war is to fight someone that has more money, more weapons, more everything. You fundamentally aggravate them to death. You hit them. You keep them busy, and you got to have a long, protracted campaign. And you got to take it right to the people. You got to take it to the disenfranchised voters. People don't know how to run. When we ran a recall, we didn't look at the vote builder to see who's voted the last 27,000 elections because we already know how they vote.
As a matter of fact, we didn't even have access to vote builder.
That's right. We didn't even need it because we were looking at the people who haven't come out to vote in years.
That's right. That's the way we did
it. We wanted them to get them motivated or pissed off enough to come out and vote. That's how anybody is going to beat an incumbent. Remember something. We had the biggest turnout. Paul's run 3 times. A turnout for our election in the middle of December with one item was bigger than the turnouts of his 3 elections.
That's right.
And why? Because we got the people motivated and pissed off. Because we took it. We didn't worry about vote builder. We wanted the people who hadn't voted for a while. We had an organization that worked hard, and it was a long, protracted thing. And those people worked hard, and we got the people, and we had on December 16th with just that on the ballot, we unseated a guy who had gotten elected by 75% of his vote for his 3rd term of office. 75% of the vote. And in the recall, 70% of the people that turned out voted against him.
Right.
So, but these people think that they don't know crap about. They're going to go hire a consultant. The guy's going to say, make a push card, make a video, kiss my ass. You got to go out there and meet the people, get to the coffee shops, go to the neighborhood meetings, get people face to face, have some real facts and figures, remind them what's happening in this city, and get them out to vote, and get an organization that's going to make sure they show up at election time.
Well, look at what Stevie B says. He'd be happy to see 25,000 to vote. I don't think Coogan has that much to hire.
We're getting close now. I figure after this $600,000 worth of pay raises in the last budget, he's probably financed about 14,000. So, I mean, I don't know. He's probably got a majority. We got to get up around 28 or 30,000 maybe.
Maybe.
But I'll tell you, notice that his vote total has been going down. Actually.
Yeah. Here's something that I think if Chris is watching or if one of his ass kissers are watching, please take this message to him. You need to learn to control your temper. Just because somebody doesn't agree with you doesn't mean you hit the block button. As a politician, you need to learn to communicate your position to the opposition so that they understand. Now, when I spoke with Chris way back when, because he wanted us to stop, he said he had no political endeavors whatsoever in mind. None whatsoever. Now, all of a sudden, he's going to run for mayor. And there's a problem with that.
Suspicious.
Already, I can see him blocking people because his dirty laundry is being publicized on social media. I'm not going to get into what it is because I don't know how accurate it is. But it's all showing up on social media. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Block the entire world?
No, yeah, Fred, I'm looking at Fred's comment about the center. Yeah, you're right, Fred. They and most of these stations have to. The Flint station, which is where I live, fundamentally, that station it hits Eastern Avenue, but they can't come down Gagnon anymore because Again, parking zoning. We've got a lot of 3-deckers, 2 families. We've got a few 1 single families, but you can't get a truck down there at night. They got people. You can barely get a car down there in between the cars, and sometimes.
Thank you, ZBA, for granting all these variances.
And so they have to go out and spend precious seconds, and that's life or death of seconds in these medical emergencies and fire emergencies and police emergencies. They have to now go out and take a right and go up county rather than going left, and it's but they can't negotiate a lot of streets in Fall River, and this is the problem.
ZBA.
You try to run from the outskirts where the traffic is lighter. There's normally wider arteries, and then you can have optional routes. You may have to choose, and what time of the day there's better parking and stuff. It's all part of the job. But new nickname for Boss Hog. Why? Geez, yeah. Well, it's not exactly the nickname I'd have, but we can't print that. So nobody kidding. But look, running is a serious thing. You don't decide 2 weeks before you're going to run. It's suspicious. I'm sorry. It's suspicious. You're just throwing your hat in a ring for shits and giggles, or there's an ulterior motive. Because if you're going to run I don't know about you, but when I shoot craps or I play anything, I want to win. I don't play result-oriented sports. Never have. Don't like them. I like to keep score. I'm very competitive.
Hey, we got a comment from Hip Hop Everything Podcast. What do you think Christopher's chances are? Well, number one, I think he's going to have an uphill battle on getting signatures. If he should be able to get certified signatures, because he's only got until Friday of next week. If he should be able to get the certified signatures.
And
I don't think he's going to get the votes that you think he needs.
If he gets that many signatures, you got to wonder how he got them so quickly, unless he had help from somebody who he was just trying to dilute the vote. But I will say something. It'll depend on the kind of campaign he runs. All I can tell you is he will be nowhere near as effective if he was serious about becoming the mayor of this city. But like I said, it's suspicious to me that he's always been a Coogan supporter, and now all of a sudden he's running against a guy that he thinks is the cat's meow.
Well, another thing.
Why didn't he start running 6 months ago or a year ago? Why wasn't
Right.
he talking to people in his restaurant about, will you support me if I run? All of a sudden, 2 weeks before, they're doing, a week and a half before they're doing, he's gonna all of a sudden, I'm gonna pull my papers, I'm running for mayor. That's not the way you do it. You're running for any office.
Here's the other big thing. Okay. He received the endorsement of a socialist, now a capitalist. Okay. That being Jordan James Sylvia. Okay. He now has an endorsement from him because he's a businessman. But before he endorsed Chris, he endorsed Boomer. Because Boomer was the guy. Who are you going to choose? And the other thing is, remember, Jordan couldn't get through a primary. He got on the ballot, but he couldn't get through the primary.
Look, endorsements really are irrelevant. It's about the people. It's the demographic you get out. These people don't understand this. It's like if the same old political hacks come to vote, the same old political hacks will get in. If the turnout is low, if you want to unseat incumbents in anything, you got to work the people who don't normally vote. You've got to go back and get the Portuguese community motivated to come back. Remind them how much their taxes are and their water bills are. Get them pissed off like we did during the recall when Flanagan we were in a deficit. You got to get people. You got to reach out to the Cambodian community, to the Spanish community, to the communities that have been left behind, that can't afford market rate housing. You got to win the hearts and minds. To go back in time to what was the credo when I was doing it. It was winning the hearts and minds. And you've got to get the people who are disenfranchised to vote, because when you get lower turnouts, they're all political hacks. And you don't decide to run against a well-financed Coogan's he'll get all the money he needs. All these developers will throw money at him. They'll give it to him in envelopes and everything else. He could pull an Eddie Lambert. Like I said, Eddie Lambert hosted 3,500 senior citizens in the course of 24 hours. $2,000 for a dinner, $1,500 for a breakfast, all expenses paid, bust them there, and he won that election, barely won that election. But money, this is what happens. You've got to do a grassroots campaign. You've got to have a solid base that you can get out, and and it takes time. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite quotes has always been from Thucydides, the great Greek philosopher and writer and historian. He was writing about the Peloponnesian War. You want to win something like the Peloponnesian War? He said, the people who lost it thought they were going to win easily, and they didn't. They thought they could just show up and they were going to win. And he said, true safety is found only through long previous training, and not from the eloquent exhortations heard before going into battle. And to put that in clear street parlance, if you don't train, you're going to get your ass kicked. If you're not ready, you're going to get your ass kicked. And like some comment from war, know yourself and know your enemy, and you're assured of victory in 100 battles.
We have another comment from Hip Hop Everything Podcast. What happens if Chris wins mayor and his husband wins city council? That's 1,000,000 to 1. But any item that was sent down from the mayor's office
to the
city council, he'd have to recuse himself. So he would be useless as a city councilor.
Yeah, actually, if he won that, he should resign, because anything he basically did, because 90% of the actions taken by the city council come from the mayor. The mayor proposes, they dispose. There's no way he could be a city councilor.
Right. So. Fred, yeah, we'd love to have some honest debates. The problem is FRC Media over at BCC preps the questions and the candidates get them. They're not honest questions. They're bullshit questions. I know. I've been there. Okay? They give the candidates they choose the questions. I'm sorry. When somebody comes into a debate and they sit down and they're asked a question and they bring up a piece of paper and they read the answer, how'd they get it? How'd they get it? You're not going to tell me they were prepped. You're not going to tell me the honest debates were the ones that Spindle City Straight Talk used to get put on. Okay? And then, because we had a really honest debate, which got the audience involved, we were persona non grata.
Yeah, remember the time they asked us for the questions and we told them we weren't going to give it to them? Nobody gets the questions. We were asked specifically for the questions.
That's right.
We said, no, you don't get the questions. The public sends us the questions. We select the questions, and we're going to ask them. Cold turkey.
Steve, I think the idea of Dave doing a debate might be a good idea for Dave, but I don't think Dave has the wherewithal or background that would get people interested in doing a debate with him. As for Barry Richard, Barry left Fall River. When he left WSAR, he said, "Adios, amigos. I'm out of here."
But I do agree. I think Barry would be a good.
Yes, I agree.
He would be a good host. Yeah, I mean, and Barry, listen, Barry gave us every single noon newscast I was on. I was the designated spokesman, CJ. And when I was in my absence, CJ would fill in. But we had a question and answer period every single day when the recall. And at the beginning, it was they thought we were a big joke, but then because of the exposure and they began to get tracked, Flanagan laughed at the beginning. He said they don't have any money, they don't have any people. I got money, I got people, I got elected by 75%. But Barry Richards gave us the opportunity, and we answered the questions, and he asked good, solid questions, and and he got the answers. But I agree, he would be a good host.
And I'm sorry,
look at all the Spindle City debates. I think were done extremely well, not just because we did them, but because we had different hosts, but all the hosts did well.
Yep.
The thing was, our format was good. It wasn't our questions. It wasn't their questions. It was questions that we got from viewers.
That's right.
And so we asked the questions. We asked what the people wanted to ask. And, they were good debates. Then, of course, when we had the audience.
Bill Rapley debate.
The Bill Rapley meeting of the House of Commons debate.
Yes.
The House of Commons debate.
That was such a good debate.
But it was. But see, that's the thing. We had no dog in the fight. It didn't matter who was there. We just wanted to hear. We had the host, we had the timekeeper, and we just sat and watched the debate and enjoyed it. We went through the questions and picked the questions, and we just watched it. We enjoyed the debates because it wasn't like, hey, let's see what these guys can do under the gun. Let's see what they can do when they're asked the people's questions. Not softballs. You're not going to tee up. This isn't T-ball. We're going to be put them up there and throw a couple of 98-mile-an-hour fastballs at them and see what the hell they got to say. But
here's a question. Hey, Mr. Dictator, how many of your friends will you lay off if we lose state aid?
None.
How many? Or will you go directly for police and fire?
Always.
I know.
Always. Teachers, too, maybe.
Yep.
My
friends keep their jobs, because without my friends keeping their jobs, I've got nobody to kiss my ass.
Well, this is going to be a very interesting election because you can tell Coogan was nervous. He went out and recruited candidates that weren't going to run, that had no intention of running.
I know.
We haven't seen the sleeping prophet in a long time running for any public office. My favorite, John Gacy is my favorite sleeping prophet. He was the one that wrote a few books. John Gacy, the sleeping prophet. But we have our own that is now lurking around the housing authority. But, and then Tommy Curry was scheduled not to run. There he is. Yes, I'm so committed to the citizens of Fall River. Let me take a nap. This is so stressful. Oh, my God. Good thing.
And let's not forget being sure that my family member gets a $20,000 grant from Paul, and I'm running for school committee. So think of my corruption as you do that. Okay?
Yeah. There's nothing that smacks of. Yes, yeah, he's going to run now, supposedly. He's going to run this again.
And just remember, he and Joe Camara have the support of the pastor at St. Anthony of the Desert Church, right from the pulpit. Yay!
Hey, listen.
Praise the Lord. Joe Camara and Tom Corey are going to save the city. Praise the Lord.
Yeah. Oh boy, you're fired up today. Yeah, I think he may need Tommy Corey again because they're covering up mold in the Fonseca school again.
That's right.
And remember remember the $1 million contract. I got it again. It's right here, right at my computer desk. There it is, the contract. There it is, the contract. Let's see, for FY 20. Oh no, FY. This is still left with this 26. $1,005,768 for maintenance.
That doesn't include mold remediation.
That's right. So HVAC support and maintenance. Maintenance means mold. I mean, if you're not maintaining shit, you get mold. But then next year, FY 26, $1,086,240. I mean, we're paying $1 million, and this is what, the third time that we've had mold and children sick and stuff. And I mean, and there's no accountability. Nobody's going to say anything. You think this guy is going to talk about it? I don't think so. You think this guy is going to have a picture of this and this? Those are the ducks. That was what, 4 years ago already? 3-4 years ago?
No, instead, he's going to put out a no-bid contract.
That's
because
right.
the work needs to be done.
And give it to the same guys who didn't do it the first time.
Who screwed it up the first time.
And the second time. And now the third time. So let's give them a contract. They should all be in jail. CJ's he's on. Right, we're gonna have to have a tent event. We're gonna heal some people.
That's it.
We're gonna heal them. We're gonna make these wokies wake up. Wake up, wokie. We're doing a great job. Yeah, build more market rate housing in a city that the average income's $31,000.
Hey,
that argument
Paul said it. High rents are good for Fall River.
But then he contradicted himself, CJ, when he said, "Oh, we got Nantucket rents."
Nantucket rents. That's right, baby. Nantucket rents. Yeah.
We got nobody from Nantucket moving into these things. Like I said,
right.
In my own neighborhood, I'm looking at houses that I knew the occupants for decades, went to school with their kids. And I look at those houses now. They've all been redone. They were part of the fabric of the Fall River community, families that had lived here for generations. They've all moved on. They sold their house for big money, got out of the city. And now I look and I go, well, I can tell you one thing. The people walking in that house, I don't know how they're affording $2,500 a month, and they don't look like they're from Newton or Wellesley.
That's right.
And it's happening all over. I've heard it from Taunton, people that live in Taunton, as they say, Taunton, and New Bedford. I've heard it from New Bedford people too. Yeah, that's a good one, Linda. That should be some somebody campaigning for some public office. That should be part of one of their. Let's make Fall River think again. Think about what's happening to your city. That's a good one. I like that. That's catchy. Yeah. And when Corey gets back on a school committee, they can cover up the Fonseca school. And I still haven't had a meeting with that person who has a sexual, sexual harassment suit. Want to talk to me? I guess he got tied up or something, but maybe literally and figuratively both, if the Coogan cabal found out about it. But look, this is an important election. I mean, I have never seen anything like it. 6 years of nothing for the average person in Fall River, and they don't turn out. I mean, I think if they don't turn out this time, then we'll be in receivership anyway. Another year of this guy, Jesus. I mean, when Maura Healey, who the only person I think can beat her for brain power is Jasmine Crockett, who somebody said had the IQ of a jellyfish. Did you see that one? I thought that was very appropriate. But then again, that may be an insult to jellyfish.
That's true.
But this guy's $7 million on lights, nothing but housing. You're right. Listen, nothing. We see New Bedford at least putting some opera money in housing. We see New Bedford building some affordable housing. We see Somerset. We see everybody, Johnston and, Jamestown and Auburn, Mass., which is a very small, fairly affluent community. Everybody, affordable. Even our pal Maura talks about it. But look at Maura. Maura's in a panic. She wants to house all these illegals. They're going to cut funding. They might 9C cuts the funding on all kinds of stuff. She's saying she's already talking about furloughs, wage freezes, not giving negotiated pay raises out, holding them back. And then they'll be in a position where if they don't take the furloughs, don't take the negotiated moratorium on pay raises, she's going to start cutting services, as they always do. And it's their fault. They can't stop. But with all that, she's at least considering how to handle not having enough money. Has Paul ever said what he's going to do when those $600,000 worth of pay raises bites him in the ass? No. Down the line? Not a bit. We're the only city that's given massive pay raises and not even considering the fact that we're in trouble. And he's dysfunctional. He keeps complaining about how tough it is. We're $2 million short in healthcare because we didn't handle our money right. Oh, we're short on this, we're short on that, we're short because we didn't handle our money right, but I gave out $600,000 worth of pay raises. Well, Paul, you think maybe you might have learned how to handle your money first and stop giving out pay raises till you figured out how much money you actually have? Because the reason that they're getting paid what they're paid is you stole the money from the healthcare, from the retirement system, from the ABRA, for everything. And you admit it. And what does the city council do? When they go up in front of you and say, we did this, and I showed you the letter that I wrote that warned them. We showed you the letter that the people warned them about the trash. And they admit they did it wrong. And you know what they said? Well, now we're all these millions of dollars in a hole. We're just going to have to take it out of the taxpayers' money. You're going to pay again. You paid taxes for your trash. You paid taxes to pay for those contracts that gave them that health care. The employees have money to pay because they kept the money when they ran under budget. The city didn't. That's fiduciary malfeasance.
Chris may get the signatures. He's now got Mr. Chen's Chinese restaurant collecting signatures for him. Not that I go to Mr. Chen's because the 2-hour wait is too long for me for delivery. Okay? But he's got a waiting line there all the time. They've got nothing better to do than to sign nomination papers.
Well,
he may pull it off. He may pull it off. I mean, I'm sure that Jordan has nomination papers down at Florentina's, which, by the way, I haven't bought anything there. So add me to that group of politicians that has not visited your business.
But you're not a politician anymore, Steve.
No, but I can be added to the group of politicians. Makes for an interesting time.
Well, look, whether he gets the signatures or not, I'm sure he will get the signatures because, like I said, I just want to know why the guy's running. He's serious. And, I understand what he said. He wants to show that you can get in without the 3 families. And I don't know. I thought there were more than 3, but that's okay. There were 5 families in New York. I know that. But the three families, and I don't know if he gets in, it will be a very very large surprise because you don't declare this late in the game against an incumbent with a lot of money and expect to be able to outspend him for advertisement, and you're going to have to give up your business and run a campaign that's directed at the people who don't normally vote, because if the same 13, 14,000 people show up to vote again,
somehow or another, I got bounced.
yeah, more than half of them would either have a job from Coogan or are looking for a job from Coogan, or one of their relatives got a job from Coogan.
That's right.
So you're done. You need to get people who don't normally come out, and in order to do that, you got to put in sweat equity. You got to hit the bricks like our people did in a recall. Those guys worked hard. Josh watches a lot. Josh was out there virtually every day. Walmart, we had Stop and Shop, Shores, knocking on doors in the South End.
Sarah Rebello, another one, out there all the time.
Actually tried to
and get out there.
Didn't somebody try to run some of our people over in the South End?
Yes, they did.
They tried to run some of our people over in the South End. We had that lovely school department employee who spent over 50 years in the school department collecting signatures for us, and she got basically assaulted in front of Dunkin' Donuts on South Main Street. The guy ripped the petitions away and defaced them.
Yep.
So yeah, it's not easy. Not easy to get the people who don't normally vote out there. And we did it because we had a real dedicated group. It wasn't.
And mind you, okay, another issue that Chris has, whether he likes it or not, okay, running a campaign is a full-time job. It's not part-time. You don't have time to go into the kitchen in the morning and make your lobster macaroni and cheese and sell it for lunch and get out on the street. Doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that way. So there's one issue. Number two, you have a nonprofit. You have to take your name off the checkbook. You cannot be on the checkbook when you're a politician. There's too many ethical problems. So get your name off the checkbook, which could mean the demise of your nonprofit. And to top it off, because somebody brought up the fact that you're going to get signatures from the homeless when you're giving them free meals. Believe me, there'll be people out there photographing you doing that. Because what that's going to look like is, you want a meal? You sign my papers. You don't sign my papers, you don't get a meal. Do I think you do that? I'm not saying that. But the impression would be that. Take a bit of free political advice. Free political advice. Get your shit together before you put your flag out there.
Woo! Get a lot of free advice. All right, but listen, like I said, it's a massive undertaking. People have no idea, and it's like incumbents are incumbents because most of the people who vote on that vote builder are political hacks. They have, or they're party partisans, and low turnouts always keep normally incumbents in. When you see a tidal wave of new people, you have a massive election. That's the problem.
That's right.
When you see,
and remember, you already know the people who vote always are going to vote. Don't waste your time. Go for the people who never go out to vote or who rarely go out to vote. And when you get them face to face, turn around, pull out of your pocket a mail-in ballot application and have them fill it out in front of you. And then take it and bring it to government center. It's not a waste of time.
That's right. We did it.
Yeah, we did it for everyone, remember?
Yeah.
How many times?
Yeah, I would drive around on my motorcycle to Walmart, all the supermarkets, everywhere we had guys walking and knocking and people in there, and Burt Street where they were keeping all the copies of the petitions and we were out there bringing stuff. You were bringing things down to City Hall for voter registrations, and it's a lot of hard work. Those people, like I said, and that was the key. I keep telling you that because listen, people go, oh, you got to be, you got to like the same baseball team. They got to like every. No, we're the exceptions. People who watch this show pay attention. Give me a reason to vote for you, and I might vote for you. Tell me why you really. Tell me something you think you're going to do differently, like get a forensic audit and start worrying with the city about the city's taxpayers. Maybe, we're not we do vote all the time, but we vote with our head. And the problem is that when we were running a recall, we had a bunch of people that was so diverse. That group was so diverse. It was incredible. We had that teacher that she wasn't a teacher. She worked in the office, the school department for over 50 years. She was retired. She was collecting. She was standing in front of Dunkin' Donuts on South Main Street. We had people who were liberals and Tea Party people. You know why? It wasn't about what party they were in. It was about they were upset with their government and they wanted to overthrow it. As I haven't seen Annalisa today, but Athens, Tennessee. It's like when a bunch of veterans got together, got a whole bunch of people out and overthrew the government in Athens, Tennessee. And this is what you got to do again, like we did in the recall. You got to get people. You got to give them it's got to be like Joan of Arc. You got to give them something to believe in. You got to give them. You got to make them angry, or you got to make them a zealot. You got to make them want to come out and vote to change things. You got to get to them. You got to show them that if they elect you, things are going to happen. I mean, people can hate Trump, they can love Trump, they can do whatever they want, but that's what he did. He took it to the people. He went to places they said you should never go. You'll never win New York. But he went to the barbershops and he got the biggest vote total of any. He didn't win it, but he got votes. That's why he won the popular vote. He got popular votes from demographics no Republican had ever done as well as he's done. And he's still doing well. Why? Right. Because he took it to the people.
And that's what needs to happen here. Okay? We need to take this election to the people and make sure the people know exactly what they're getting with Paul the thief Coogan. With Paul the briber Coogan. Because all his friends that he's giving pay raises to and jobs, that's bribery, in my opinion. So
Alphonse says we need leaders, not followers. No, we need followers to follow leaders who are going to lead them because they're going to be listening to their constitutional duty to be our representatives and work for us, not for themselves, not for the powers to be. Because most people, unfortunately, are followers. But when you get somebody that's a leader and makes promises and then keeps them, they'll stay. Look, Menino in Boston. Menino was the mayor of Boston, and he would have been the mayor of Boston for life. He got sick, he got cancer, and then he didn't run. He could have been mayor for life. Menino, yeah, that you're right. They should be audited all the time. In the old days, they were. The department heads used to get skewered at city council meetings. Oh, really? See? Dan Bongino left his position over the Bondi Epstein. Well, hey, they really screwed that thing up. And, I mean, it is what it is. But unfortunately, the reality is powerful people they make a lot of things happen that nobody else can happen. Things disappear, or people get paid off, and it's a shame. And there are people who swear he committed this. It's going to be one of those mysteries that it's like OJ was innocent, but he got convicted in a civil trial, and it's crazy. But get back to Menino. Menino took on the unions in Boston, and Boston has some of the most powerful unions in the country. Probably New York City Fire Department, FDNY. They got like, I don't know, they got like 30,000, huge department. But Boston's got a big department. They actually blocked the tunnels with ladder trucks and everything else. He took on the unions. He said, you work in Boston, you're making big money, you got to live in Boston. They all refused. Teachers union took on all the unions. They said, you'll never win without the unions. He did. The people of Boston knew that most of those people lived outside of Boston. And he stayed in office, and he held it out. And he stuck to why? Because he stuck to his guns. He made a promise. And I was very good friends with the president of Boston Firefighters at the time. They went 5 years without a contract because they wouldn't settle. They didn't want to move in because they all lived out of town. He lived out of town. They all lived out of town. They used to commute in. And I remember having dinner with him. He used to come down here. We used to go to Federal Hill and have dinner because he was an Italian guy. And he used to like to go to the old canteen. You know the old canteen, CJ?
Yeah, which is no longer there.
Yep. He used to go to the Venus a lot. I'd see him at the Venus, too. But I used to go to the old canteen, and he'd get veal a la Frank. But he came, we were talking one day, and I said, Neil, what do you, he says, he won't budge. He caved everybody else. The firefighters were the last ones. He said, I don't know what I'm going to do, though. So I said, listen, you got to go to your membership, and you got to tell him, listen, he's never going to give us a contract. You're going to go 10 years without a pay raise. If that's what you want to do, fine. But he said, go down there and say, look, make him a deal. He does want to settle. I said, but he's not going to give it to you. So just say, okay, we're going to grandfather everybody that's on a job in now, and after that, everybody has to live in the city. It's a concession you're going to have to make. Let your membership decide. If they want to live out of town, they may not get another pay raise till the next ice age from Menino, or until he's not in office. And they made the deal. And now they have to, Menino could have stayed in office. He took it on, he made a promise, he kept the promise, and he stayed in office. And he wrote a book. Read the book. I got it, my library. It was an amazing thing to take on those powerful unions. And the Boston Firefighters Union, very, very rich union. They've got over 2,000 members. They have their own credit union, their own hall. They rent out their hall for weddings and banquets. They got their own credit union. They got money. They got their own personal lobbyists just for their department, besides the state Firefighters Union on Beacon Hill, lobbying politicians all the time. Very, very popular. Boston teachers, too. They have their own retirement system. Everybody else in the state that's a teacher is in the state retirement system for teachers. The Boston school teachers have their own separate retirement. That's how powerful those unions are up there. But he took them on, and he stayed in office forever. But that's what they want. People want leaders who are going to, and Trump said, I'm going to fight for you. And the earned income wage of the average worker has gone up more than it has in 20 some years. And because he's actually working for the working man.
Well,
if they ever do
a long show, went for a long time. I want to thank you all for watching. And remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. Enjoy yourselves at St. Michael's Feast this weekend. Get a Mother Sanders from me. Have a great weekend.
Favish.